Being a sucker for period dramas makes me always excited to go to the Lowden Film Festival, as we're just bound to have a ton of those given the country's history. This is my review of Benediction. We follow the story of soldier and poet Siegfried Sassoon, who was decorated for bravery on the Western Front and is best remembered for his angry and compassionate poems about the First World War. Now, before I properly start with my review, I want you to start the conversation down in the comments below. That's the most important part. And if you like what you see here, make sure to click the subscribe button so you do not miss any future conversation about your favorite movies and TV. I'm a huge fan of Jack Lowden. That was my biggest incentive to go see this film. I knew nothing about the soldier and poet Siegfried Sassoon going in, and I was extremely surprised and happily surprised at seeing how much weight Jack Lowden can carry on screen. He's the best part of this film. I think he gives a beautifully aching performance through all the stages of this man's life. His grace and charm are exuding out of the screen, and Peter Capaldi does a great job too at playing the same character at a later stages in life, and I think these two complement each other very well. I think the film is captured very well. There's really good cinematography, really great set design and costumes, and this film terribly disappointed me. All those surface level qualities are there, and I stand by the incredible talents of Jack Lowden, who unfortunately cannot save this film. Muddled and unfortunately misguided pieces of filmmaking I have seen in a while. Just when you get going in a scene and you're appreciating the world where these characters are, the conflict, the performances, the film immediately cuts or fades, and we'll get to the editing in a bit, into real-life war footage and the beautiful, granted, narration of Jack Lowden reading what I assume is one of Siegfried's poems. They're well done, I guess, but I don't go watch a film to hear narration and to hear poems. I would love to see the man's story on screen. I would love to have seen his life, his conflicts and relationships throughout his life, because Siegfried was a gay man, and being a gay man in the 1910s or 1920s, which I'm not even sure where the film is set because it's not clear at all. Clearly it wasn't easy. But these relationships, these men that he starts and ends relationships throughout his life, you barely see any of the relationship. You see how he comes together with someone, you see them having a very rough breakup, a very nasty breakup, a very nasty end of a relationship, but you never live through those relationships, through those journeys with Siegfried himself, with any of the characters for that matter. It gives the film a constant feel of highlight realness, where you have these moments that just as you get going and just as it seems you're about to get immersed into the story, cuts to real war footage, and then we have a voiceover, and it keeps going, it keeps going, it keeps going, and these moments are so much, and there's so many of them, and they last so long. You constantly get thrown out of the film, and you're like in a poem session at a cafe where you're supposed to snap your fingers after each poem is read. It constantly frustrated me, it constantly threw me out of the film, and it constantly baffled me how this was the decision to tell this story in this manner, and it was accepted. The people, the soldiers in the war footage, are probably on screen for longer than the actual actors performing the script are on screen, and nothing about the beautiful performances could have saved this film. I think Jack Lowden is a really good narrator. He reads on screen very, very well. If you're doing an audiobook, please hire him because he's great. But that's not what I go watch a film for. Let's also talk about the editing, because this film is in love with cross dissolves. It just keeps doing it constantly over and over again. There's a portion of the film in that first act, and I gotta talk about the first act, by the way, where in a span of like a minute, it uses it 5 times, if not more. And then there are other examples of it throughout the film. Let's talk about that first act, which is so important to bring you into this world, into the lives of the characters, understand their perspective, understand what they want, what they need, what's their goal, motivations, conflict, whatnot, the basics. The first act of this film doesn't feel like a picture lock. It doesn't feel like a final draft on a script level. It feels like it's jumping in and out of the film again with those poetic musings about existence and about what the war did. I want to see what the war did to this man. I don't want to hear about it. This film constantly falls into the mistake repeatedly of telling something to the audience, not showing it. You're just never allowed to live a day in this man's life. You live 5 minutes of it, and then we go on these poetic musings that come across as very pretentious, and then we cut to some years in the future where a ton has changed and you're not really ever able to catch up. As you're watching the film, you feel like you lost so much. It feels like an entire series of television was crammed into 2 hours and 20 minutes. Again, this film is long, by the way. It's not like it's a 90-minute film and you understand why they had to cram so much. No, this film is long and it still feels so overstuffed. Suffice it to say, I did not enjoy Benediction. I appreciated the performances. I appreciated the technical mastery of the camera work, the sound, the costumes, and sets. But as far as a piece of storytelling, I found it completely pointless, completely pretentious, and utterly disappointing. I'm giving Benediction a D. This was utterly baffling because I thought this looked good. I thought this had great intentions, and it does have great intentions, but it just goes about it the complete wrong way when it comes to making a film. But those are my thoughts on Benediction. Let me know your thoughts on it down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. There should be a playlist right up here right now with all the London Film Festival coverage up so far, and there's one more review for London Film Festival coming very soon. Thank you so much once more for watching. I hope to see you in the future, and so until then, love each other and love the movies.